I'm really concerned about the Bank of England's figures today at £220 a month on average in additional mortgage payments, but 1 million people looking at payments of an additional £500 a month. That's disastrous for so many families whose dream of home ownership is now turning into a nightmare. I've said repeatedly now that the government's scheme for lenders to support customers should be mandatory, not just a voluntary scheme, because a voluntary scheme risks hundreds of thousands of people falling through the net and not getting the support that they need.
There could well be an election in the autumn, and then you'd be in charge and you'd then be dealing with these high interest rates. So what I want to know is whether you would be prepared to consider making banks offer mortgage holidays, for example, as they did in the pandemic, or even maybe, I mean, it's a Conservative idea, but who knows, offering borrowers tax relief on mortgage interest payments.
I think there are things that could be done to try and get a grip of inflation, because that is at the root of the problems we face at the moment. I put forward a package of anti-inflationary measures, for example, investing in clean energy to bring down people's energy bills, fixing the holes in the botched Brexit deal that the government did, which is pushing up prices of things like food because of extra checks and bureaucracy at the border, and helping more people get back into work, because there are 2.5 million people missing from our labour market. Those are some practical things. So you wouldn't be offering
anything extra to mortgage holders?
But what we need to do is to get a grip of inflation, because then we don't need to have this mortgage pain because of the interest rate rises.
Your ironclad fiscal rule, you've described it as ironclad, is to have debt falling as a share of GDP. But as interest rates rise, there is vanishing room for manoeuvre on that, isn't there? So are you prepared to cut spending on public services to meet your fiscal rule on debt?
I've got absolutely no intention on cutting spending in public services.
Why are you even the fiscal rule then?
Even the government's own forecasts, Cathy, as you know, show public spending increasing in every year of the forecast period. So I've got no intention of cutting public services. In fact, I've promised additional money through getting rid of the non-dom tax status, by having VAT on private schools, and also treating the bonuses of private equity bosses as income rather than capital gains. Those are just 3 things that we would do to get more money into our public services compared with what the Conservatives have committed to.
But you know, if you take into account inflation, you're looking at potentially real-term cuts to meet your fiscal rule.
That's just not the case, Cathy. There are real-term spending increases on public services, even at the moment, under the Conservatives, under every year of the forecast. And I've committed additional money through the non-dom tax status, VAT on private schools, and also getting rid of the private equity tax loophole.
But is there wiggle room around your fiscal rule? Is it kind of more silver foil than ironclad?
I've said that my fiscal rules are non-negotiable, and Keir has been clear about that as well. We'll get
even if that
falling.
means cutting spending down the line?
Cathy, there is no chance of that. That's not even in the government's forecast, and we've committed extra money from the limited tax increases and closing the tax loopholes that I've already set out.
You've said that you'll be the first Green Chancellor. You've delayed now your £28 billion a year green investment pledge. We know your leader's not a tree hugger. Do you personally back expanding the ULEZ low emission zone to outer London?
Well, I'm not a London Member of Parliament. I'm a Member of Parliament in Leeds.
You live in London, though, at least part of the week.
Well, yes, because I'm a Member of Parliament. So I understand why the Mayor of London wants to address the issues of air quality. In fact, he's statutorily obliged to address the huge challenges of air quality. And I feel
so
that in London.
Expansion of the ULEZ?
I recognise that there are big problems of air pollution, particularly in London. I am, though, concerned around the cost of living pressures, and I would urge the government to work with the Mayor, as the government have in other cities that have had to bring in some of these measures, to ensure that those people on lower incomes are better supported through this crisis.
But, right, so you back the expansion of the ULEZ scheme as your, you know, or you don't. I mean, neither you nor Keir Starmer are able to say whether you back the Mayor who wants to expand it or your Uxbridge candidate who doesn't.
This is a matter for the Mayor of London and for London Members of Parliament. This is not an issue as Chancellor of the Exchequer that I would have any say whatsoever over. But I would.
You want to be the first Green Chancellor. You've got to take leadership on this, haven't you?
Look, Cathy, this is something that is a London issue for London MPs, Londoners and the Mayor of London. But I would work with the Mayor, as the government has in other cities, including Bristol and elsewhere, to ensure that people on lower incomes are better supported. But this is an issue for the London Mayor.
But let me be clear, it's a tax. You want to be the first Green Chancellor. It's an issue about the air we breathe, and it's an issue about taxation, and yet you don't have a position on it.
Well, I understand why the Mayor of London feels that he needs to do this, because he's statutorily obliged. That is legislation that the government brought in to tackle air quality. Other mayors, other leaders are doing it in different ways.
Rachel Reeves, thanks very much.
Thank you.